This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I'd like to call the order of the Village of Ashwaubenon Park and Rec Board, Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Chris Servo.
Here.
Tracy Kluge.
Here.
Heidi Murphy.
Here.
Mark Custodian.
Sure.
Donovan Miller.
Here.
And I have Lundberg and Hess are excused.
All right, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, please keep in our thoughts our brave men and women that are helping us keep us safe here abroad. Action on the agenda, we need to move up 8H up to before, in between 8A and 8B.
Move to approve with moving 8H up.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Action on the minutes. To consider an act on the park board minutes from October 17th, 2023. It's been a while. Yeah.
Move to approve.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named. Board is not able to take action at this meeting. There's nobody in the audience. We have access to the interwebs, so we will move on. Written communications or announcements.
There is one. Yep.
Yep. There we go. Oh, here it is. Yes, we have a thank you note from Ashwaubenon High School Encore. Ashwaubenon High School Encore from the senior holiday luncheon. Dear Mr. Rory and village residents, thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of the holiday season, as well as for your generous donation. Your financial support and kind wishes truly help build our program each year. Happy holidays, Ashwaubenon High School Encore.
Next question, the donation is, what is that from?
We pay them $100 to perform, and then we also pass the Santa hats to the people in the audience. So it turns out to be a fairly healthy donation for that.
Nice. I had one announcement, nothing else. I just wanted to say the little library that the Girl Scouts put in Clipstein is very nice. They did a really nice job on that. So you probably have thanked them already, but I think they turned out.
I will pass it on.
Is it stocked?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I've got some goodies. I say I put a couple in a while back, but for a while.
Okay. Action items. 8A. Consider, discuss, and act on the 2024 ash tree removal bids.
I will pass this on to Tim. Let him take the floor.
Thank you. 2024 is the 4th year of a 5-year plan that we implemented to manage ash trees throughout our community. The work has been going well over the years. We are on schedule to finish that on next year. We might have some small miscellaneous work to kind of pick up after that. The village is divided into 13 management areas. We have completed the first 11 of them. The project before you tonight encompasses management areas 12 and 13. And they are roughly equal to the wards that we have. When the tree inventory was taken in 1998, they did match up identical to the wards. So they've shifted a little bit over the years, but so they're roughly equal to the wards that we have. That project is roughly 184 street trees. And the second project, Project B, is the last of our 2 parks that have managed trees within them. All the other parks are done. Waterford and Valley View are the last two, unfortunately, that we need to remove ash trees in. The bids were sent out, or the bid specs were sent out to about 32 different contractors. We got a great response. We got 11 bids that were returned from them, which I think a 1/3 response rate is really good on any type of bidding project. On page 13, you can see where the bids came in for the various contractors. Some of these we've used in the past for various projects. Some of them we have not. The park work was pretty straightforward. If you look at bid B, Trios was low bid at $14,525. We've used them for the last 3 years. They've done a good job for us. The added benefit of that company, which is above and beyond the scope of the project, is they do their tree work a little bit different. They haul raw brush to a site, and then they bring in like 1,000 horsepower horizontal chipper, and they grind it all up and haul it off site for biofuel. So the advantage to the village is all the brush that we collect over at Public Works and we haul out to this site, they grind it up and haul it away at no charge to us as well. So there's a really nice cost savings for the village that's kind of wrapped into using that contractor. So my recommendation for bid B would be Trios in the amount of $14,525. The first project, bid A, was the low bid was Peters Logging and Tree Service. And the reason I put in the agenda packet that being a recommendation, I wanted a couple days to do the due diligence on them, check their references and have a conversation with them. We opened them last Wednesday, so I just want to make sure I had enough time to do that. I had a conversation with all of their references that they provided, as well as the owner of the company today. He answered all my questions. He ensured me that they have the equipment to do the job. In the bid packets, I have them list all the equipment they have available, and based upon what they listed, I had some concerns about doing this scope of work. And he said they simply rent equipment that they need for these bigger projects rather than having the overhead of purchasing it and the maintenance of keeping it in their fleet.
Where are they from?
They are out of the Menominee Nation, so they do a lot of work with the Menominee Tribal Enterprise, which is a world-renowned forestry program. They grow trees on a 300-year rotation, which is something that we typically don't do. We don't have that long-term vision, so it's a really good forestry program up there. They are primarily a logging company, so they work with the tribal enterprise on those projects. They do tree work also to supplement that. And kind of their thinking was spring thaw. They can't get their equipment into these sites to do their work. They've got weight limit issues. So this project fit nicely in to keep their guys busy and employed rather than. So with that being said, I would recommend Peters Logging and Tree Service for the street tree removals, the amount of $50,786.
So there's a pretty large discrepancy between them and that highest bid of $218. What's that about?
I think different companies have different business models and what their expectation for an hourly rate is.
Oh, okay.
That's what it's going to come down to. I do know that some of the contractors that we worked with in the past kind of bid it almost on a break-even basis. Rather than laying their employees off and have to rehire them and get them back, they were comfortable just breaking even or even a minimum profit. So I think it comes down to an hourly rate, basically.
Tim, for Peters, when you did your checking, have they done street tree removal in other communities? I mean, you said they're typically logging type of company. Have they done any references for that type of work?
They did not have any references for municipal type work, other than they did do some work for the Menominee Nation, which wasn't really like street tree type work. It was more clearing for developments, some hazardous trees, hot spotting things for them. But as far as a true municipal job, they were unable to provide a reference for that.
From your reference, you're comfortable with their expertise and knowledge that they can handle this type of tree removal work.
Yeah.
Do they have a plan in your bid plan or the plans they bring back? Do they outline their cleanup process or, that coming off of Tracy's, they're in a national forest logging, we're gonna leave it down for all the chipmunks and the rabbits. Now, I don't remember what the name of the company was that did my street, but amazing. Like, it was ungodly awesome. Like 45 minutes of bliss. Very loud bliss, but you know what I'm saying. So like, I'm trying to picture a logging outfit. I know a couple of guys that do deep woods logging, and they get their prize out, and that's they're there for it. So that's kind of the plan in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't have any concerns about that. Even when we talked about stump grinding operations, they said they typically will use like a fence or a netting to kind of put around the grinding area to keep the chips contained as well. Every tree that is removed on the job, I inspect to make sure it's done to our standards and specifications. So when
There's a few in my backyard that are gonna go, and I'll be hollering about them.
just on public property.
They're on the neighbors.
So every tree that is removed on the project, I do inspect it to make sure it's done to our specs and standards. And the Foley Tree Service, who you alluded to, they were a pleasure to work with. They did a really great job. We didn't have any issues on that project. It was a lot of fun working with those guys.
Yeah, that was an amazing operation.
Yeah, but didn't they have the big gripper or whatever that held the tree?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple different types of equipment.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Trios, have they done municipal work done? I mean, they're
We've had them before. haven't we?
1,500. So like we've had them before, like for $1,500, comfort zone, like we know what to expect out of that for sure. That's kind of where I'm leaning.
Yeah, Trios did the management areas 1 through 5, Pioneer Park and Gillis Park last year, Waterford Park, Fort Howard Park, Canterbury. So yes, they've done a bunch of work for us over the years.
They're in the conservancy area now. Are they the ones doing?
That's Foley's.
That's Foley's. Okay.
Yep, that's a carryover from last year.
Okay.
Between Glen Road and Buffalo, the conservancy area. We're waiting for the ground to freeze up.
Yep. Idea.
And I don't think we have it quite yet with the snow insulating
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to award bid A to Peters Logging and Tree Service at $50,786, and bid B to Trios Tree Service at $14,525.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Jumping to H. Consider act, discuss an act on the 2023 Community Center Report. Rex.
And I will pass this one off to David. David just put this together and filed some information for everyone to take a look at.
All right, so basically every year January we try to go over what the community center rentals were like the previous year, any issues that came up, anything that was good, successful, just different programming that we have. So there's a number of different things that go into the management of that facility. I would say overall 2023 was a very good year for us. So we will just kind of go through some of the programming. The facility itself has gotten a lot more use and a lot busier year after year. No matter what day or time we come to visit the community center, it seems like there's at least one program going on. Sometimes 3, 4, sometimes too many things going on. So it's busy, which seemed like a tall task when it first opened. We weren't used to using a community center that often to fill all the time and space, and it's gotten to the point where we actually have to turn groups away just because there's not enough space for it. So a good issue to have. We can be choosy at this point what kind of programming and different events and stuff like that that we want to see in the facility. So I did put together kind of a list of the different activities that took place in 2023. I'm not going to go through them all, but we're always trying to put in some new programming. We've done some new ballroom dancing that's been very successful. We have a line dancing club now that meets every Tuesday and Friday. The group's been growing like crazy. We've been doing registration that started beginning of January for that program. And I know we have, I want to say, almost 45 people, 50 people registered for that. They're a fun group to come in and watch and listen to. They're pretty intense, and they got the music blaring, and definitely a variety of music to it. So no matter what kind of music you like, they've got something for you. We got a ukulele club that meets. They're really into it too. They're strumming away and singing, and it's just kind of fun to see. So as they're trying to offer a variety of programs, from our real little kids with dance classes for 2 and 3-year-olds all the way through, seniors with dementia care classes and brain health, and hopefully something for everyone is, I guess, what we're trying to aim for. Next up, we've got some of our numbers from previous years. Obviously, we've fully bounced back from the dip that we took in COVID back in 2019 and 2020. 2021 was pretty much back to a normal revenue year. 2022 was a slight increase. I know we increased our fees in 2022. That took place on April 1st. So then 2023 was a full year of bookings at the new rate. So you see a significant jump in revenue from 22 to 23, which is good. It can be kind of tricky to determine how much revenue is going to be coming in just based off of the number of permits. I would say, out of that 417 number, we've got 207 that are actually paid permits, but we also have a lot of different community groups that are in there with like the VFW, different scout troops are always meeting in there. We have our co-sponsored organization meetings. Even tonight, I know at the middle school they had a pipe burst, so they needed a place for practice, and we had the middle school dance team come over for practice. We have a lot of our own programming that goes on in there. When we count the actual, usage, it really just factors in one class almost as one use, even though it can be a class that meets 100 times throughout the year. So when we put line dancing into the system, we book it for the whole year. It actually only counts as one reservation, but they're meeting, 100 or 104 times for the year. So some of the numbers can kind of get a little bit tricky that way, but overall, when we count the total uses, we were at 2,377 for 2023. So like I said, it's getting busier and busier as we stay open, and we have more opportunity to bring in good programming. So and so we've been getting there at 7:30, and programs are starting often at 8 o'clock, and like I said, there's still stuff going on there right now. As far as the demand for permits, if you've got a date in mind that you're looking to book something, you need to be on the ball and really put your request in. Looking at summer already, I think every Saturday is booked basically.
Within the
Totally.
August 24th is the first available.
So yeah, like I said, there's definitely the bands. Some weekends we'll have, a couple rentals on Friday. We'll have 3 or 4 on Saturday, and even a couple on Sunday too. So another thing to factor into with revenue versus permits is obviously depending on what kind of event they're having. It could be a 4-hour a minimum, for a baby shower or a family birthday. Or sometimes we have a wedding that, is there for 4 hours on Friday for setup. They rent the place for, 12, 13 hours on Saturday, and then they'll have, Sunday cleanup for 4 hours too. So it could be almost a 20-hour rental versus a 4-hour rental too. So,
Have there been any issues with parking?
no. Yeah, we're very good as far as parking.
It gets full, but I don't think it is that,
Doesn't like
Issue
overflow to
level.
the street or anything?
Not really, unless except for the concert. I would
yeah,
say for the most part.
concerts are tight on Wednesdays, but for permits themselves, there might be a few people out in the street just because I think it's easier to get in and out.
Okay.
But for the most part, our own lot holds it pretty good, and sometimes there's a little bit of overflow in the Parkview parking lot on Willard for some of the events. So
Okay.
haven't had any,
The businesses across the street haven't said anything?
only for the Wednesday concerts.
Okay.
And we do sometimes have to communicate with the high school if they have a big event going on. Because a lot of times, you won't see a parking lot that close, but they've been pretty good at communicating with us where we can put up barricades and let the
Homecoming
groups know.
sometime, a big dance competition or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's worked out well.
As far as issues at the facility, we did have an issue that came up with the security fire system. It actually really started in 2022 and was a huge hassle where we were getting communication errors on basically our fire system. So we were constantly having the fire alarm go off, and I was constantly getting phone calls.
Clarify constantly, how many times a day?
I would say at the worst every 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not just during business hours.
Oh.
So,
David,
2 o'clock in the morning.
David put his time in.
I'd be late in
We all
bed.
think
I'd be late in bed and
when
getting
he's
phone
saying
calls.
constantly, he's exaggerating. He's not.
No, I thought one time, I thought I was gonna lose my mind for a while. In 2022, when it originally popped up, we had everything tested. I would say, the phone lines were tested, the security lines were tested, everybody pointed fingers at each other. Even CEC came in, and I don't think their techs had any clue what was going on at the time. Because every time I'd walk back there and they were working on it, I could hear them on the phone asking like the person on the other end of the line to like read through the manual. Like I don't know if I'm not going to be paying you guys if you don't know what's going on. And they kind of guessed their way into. It seemed like solve it for a little bit, and then it really came back bad again. And they got to the point where they were going to really have to replace the system, because otherwise they were just taking wild guesses at it. But when they started doing that, what we found out was that when we built the facility and it opened in 2016, there was different codes for security and fire. They used to be able to be all on the same system. Now, if you built a facility, they would want those split apart. Like I said, we had CEC since the beginning, but I know that it's already been budgeted. ordered all this stuff to put in a new system for 2024. Jeremy has been heading that, and we're just waiting for those parts to get in. Like anything, when you're dealing with some technology stuff, it can take a while to get the necessary parts that you need. The wiring they don't have to really swap out, but all the strobes and actual parts of the system need to be replaced. So that's something that should be hopefully happening, I would think, in the next month or two, where they're come in, change all the components, and we're going to be actually switching to Martin Security, which is what we use here at Village Hall. And they're actually more of a local company, so if we do have issues, hopefully we can get better customer service and get somebody in here. CEC, like I said, they're good, but they are Iowa based, so it's not always easy to get the person here timely fashion when the alarm's going off nonstop. We did buy new furniture for the new lobby in 2023. We got a set of new tables from WGNR. Actually, I would say our lobby furniture for the most part has held up very well for how much use is going on. The taller tables and kind of the bright green chairs.
In front of the fireplace, yes, the end tables and the round table in front of the couch. Through wear and tear and quite honestly some vandalism and kids etching their names in it and scratching and making a tic-tac-toe board on it and things that you just get to shake your head about. It was time.
Yeah, I've been here since 7 years, so it was time to replace that.
The chairs and the couch are actually still in pretty decent.
I'm surprised that there's no tears in the couch. Knock on wood. All it takes is one person to sit down with something sharp in their pocket and poke a hole in it. So
Good thing they use it on the table.
yes, yeah, they're carving their names on the table instead of having it in their pocket apparently. So, and then like we do every year, we do have a budget for table replacements. Obviously, with the amount of rentals that we have in the Grand Park Room and the scale of the events that we have, we try to replace as many of those tables as we can on an annual basis versus waiting until everything needs to be replaced at once and all of a sudden we have a $35,000 or $40,000 table bill come to us. So it's easier to kind of buy it as we can.
It's a catch-22. So we could get heavier tables that might last longer, but with the way our operation is set up is the groups set them up and take them down. So heavier tables would be more difficult for a lot of the groups, as well as since they are heavier, I can see them being dropped more. So we usually get the Mighty Light brand of tables, which are very light and easy to set up, easy to break down, easy to move around, but they're lighter, and as such, sometimes the issues we always have are the protective band strips around the tabletops. That goes typically because of being pounded, whether against each other when they're setting tables up or hitting the ground or whatever. Eventually, those start to come loose. The glue starts to come loose. So
Kind of gets a little sharp once it.
yeah, and occasionally we get some legs that are broke, but Matt and Steve and Dan, our park maintenance crew, do a good job of bringing those over to the shop and get those welded up as possible. So it's usually with the tabletops themselves and the banding around there that it's time to replace these, because it does, like David said, it gets a little sharp and then dangerous. And then you put duct tape on it and then it doesn't start.
That's what everybody wants at their wedding or something.
Duct tape.
Duct tape tables. So, and then the last part, as far as security deposits, we do keep money. I wouldn't say it's a super rare occurrence, but depending on how the rentals go, there's a number of reasons why people can lose money from their security deposits, whether it's not leaving on time, damage to the facility. We get a lot of groups that either don't want to clean or they do a terrible job cleaning, especially some of the permits that go later where there's more alcohol and drinking. involved. So we do charge an hourly rate for clean. I know a lot of times our part-time staff will unfortunately be there until 2:30, 3 o'clock, sometimes trying to clean up after a group, knowing that we have a Sunday rental.
Too late, but that's another agenda item tonight.
Yeah, which is why we moved this one up so that we can talk about the
What is the hourly?
currently
65.
65. Which we'll discuss next, but it just makes it tough on staff. It's tough to find staff that work on such a sporadic basis, kind of work crazy hours. The crew that we have, we want to keep them. So all of a sudden, you're a retired person working there and asking somebody to stay until 3 o'clock to clean is crazy. I know I can't even stay awake past 9:30. So, unless football's on. There you go. So, like I said, that's a challenge because I do think the staff that we have, I think they do take pride in the facility, and they know that the groups that rent on Sunday are paying the exact same amount that the groups pay it on Saturday. So they want it to be looking just as good for the next group that's coming in too. So, like I said, in 2023, we did keep over $2,500 in security deposits. And we do also, just so you know, we do also have a line in our contract about if public safety has to be called. It's an automatic forfeiture of the entire security deposit. You would think that wouldn't be a thing, but we definitely have had to call them a couple times. I know the last two, I know there was one group that there was a fight in the parking lot. So obviously, public safety was called for that. They lost their full deposit. And then another was, there was a kid that actually pulled the fire alarm on purpose. Yeah. So things do happen, but sometimes I guess we're a little more forgiving depending on their actions afterwards or how bad they feel about the situation too. But it just kind of in place to protect ourselves and protect the facility is what it comes down to. And then I do have another page here.
Before you go next, can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
We have the residents, there's 192 resident permits and then 15 non-resident. Is that pretty typical, numbers wise?
It is.
Resident versus non?
Yeah. It's amazing how many people know Ashwaubomay residents, I would say, when they're trying to book a facility. But there is a 3-year booking window for residents versus only 3 months for non-residents. So,
So getting in is tough.
Yeah, if you're trying to plan a big event.
Yeah.
Most people have it planned before 3 months, but we do get a number of calls, people scrambling and trying to find a spot. But there's just, when we're booked up that solid, there's really not that much space available at that point. So, like I said, I think basically May through October, if you're a non-resident, good luck, yeah.
Thank you.
And then we do send out a survey for the groups after they rent. If you look at kind of the ratings and stuff like that, the ratings are all very high. I would say 4.8, 4.9 for the most part out of 5, which I think is pretty good. Like I said, we're fortunate to have a good staff there. Rachel does a good job training people, enforcing the rules and policies, and being willing to adjust as things come up too. So I always tell people if there's a rule that seems crazy, there's a reason that rules in our policy book too. So, but for the most part, the people that have a good experience and rate the facility high don't leave messages saying great job or keep up the good work. It's usually only if they have an issue, then they'll possibly say something. But when we do see kind of a negative comment, we do try to take care of it as quickly as possible. So we know that people are using their hard-earned money to pay for the facility for a special occasion, so we want to make it as good as we can for them. But like I said, some of the stuff from the comments, we can take care of some of it. Like adding service moves is something that we don't even do anyway, so.
Yeah.
But like I said, more of like the cleaning stuff or major issues that we try to definitely address staff or take care of as much as we can. Some of the carpet stuff, like I said, we just kind of do it on a seasonal basis. So, maybe you rent right before we're getting the carpet cleaned anyway. So, and we have actually purchased a carpet cleaner that has been used to
For the smaller,
Really
for the smaller, easier to take care of spots, we can do that in-house, but we also still call
Stanley Steamer.
Stanley Steamer, twice a year to come in and do a more thorough deep clean.
Any questions, concerns?
I see a comment here about, they wish there was setup assistance. Would you maybe consider charging for a setup fee?
No, we actually, when we first opened, we actually used to set up the tables, and it was just a nightmare. Me and Rachel at the time it was before all the offices were over there, and we would try to set up on Fridays for a wedding. We set up 250 chairs and 30 tables, and it would take us hours. And then they never liked the way it's set up, and
So there's usually event planning staff that is going, that would be like a third party vendor who's
Yeah.
gonna do so like if they want set up help for a wedding, that's gonna be your wedding planner who's coordinating that sort of stuff.
It's one of the reasons why the fees are as low as they are right now, is we don't have those extra staff assigned.
Yeah.
I think it would, even if we wanted to, I'll be honest, I don't know if we would be able to find enough staff
Do it timely
to do
and,
that, yeah.
the other issue is the amount of rentals that we have on the weekend. So you set up for the Friday event, but then you've got 2 on Saturday, you got 1 on Sunday.
if you had to do them all, you'd be busy.
Yeah.
You work around the clock.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so they know that they've got to set up the tables and chairs, and they know they've got to put them
So see, we're very clear about that their rental time needs to include their setup and their take time.
Because I know some of you have asked this question before, and I get asked this, how come you don't have that done online, the renting process? That's exactly why. There's too many really important items that need to be gone over with someone face to face.
That they won't
Otherwise they won't read it, and it becomes an issue.
And when they come in for a rental too, we do check IDs. And just verify addresses.
They are residents.
Yeah, utility bills and stuff.
You would be surprised how many people try and falsify their residency. Because they know
You gotta
someone.
save a buck.
I tell you, I'd be surprised, but I don't think I would.
You gotta save a buck, everybody can.
Is that by
Yeah.
You're not gonna get in otherwise.
claiming to be a resident, you can book earlier. There is a decent non-resident fee because the facility is paid for by, the referendum and tax dollars. And then the security deposit is.
Sometimes we even go as far as to look up the address in Brown Dog, and it turns out to be a vacant lot on the industrial road. Oh, sorry, I guess I've got the wrong address written down. So it's telling David and the crew do a nice job of trying to ferret that
Oh
stuff.
man, that's my favorite. Problems. Money.
Yeah.
Gold money.
Yeah, we'll
there.
catch up.
I only had one more, and it's an unfair question because you're only 2 weeks in, but the hours changed. Has there been any negative feedback or positive feedback or nothing?
I think so far it's worked out nicely with a lot of the working families. If they want to come in and rent out the facility or, sign up for one of our programs. It gives them a little bit more time to get there before they have to go to work. Otherwise, people are scrambling on their lunch break to try to get in and take care of all that stuff. So I haven't seen any issue. Kelly, you probably should.
What, with the hours?
Yeah.
No. Actually, all I've heard is people like the 7:30, actually.
And Friday afternoon's always been a little bit.
'Cause from my ADRC experience, Friday after bingo left, that was that. There was no reason to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, the people that come in, I think they've done a good job adjusting. So and it, I mean, technically even opens up a little bit more time, you know, for, you know, popular rentals and stuff like that.
All right, thanks for the report, David.
All right, that leads us into, be consider, discuss, and act on the weekend community center fees and rental hours.
And I'll let David go right into this one as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Kelly. So obviously, I know we try to do it on an annual basis, but we always like to, I guess, review, you know, some of our policies, rental hour timeframes, just making sure that our fees are up to where they should be. The fees, it's always kind of a challenge of bringing in revenue, also making sure that it's still an affordable place for our residents. Like I mentioned before, it was a referendum and tax dollars that paid for the facility. So we want to make sure that all of our community members are able to afford it. You know, if they want to have a wedding there or, you know, grandpa's 90th birthday, we want to make sure that it's something that is an option for our residents too. So, we've looked at quite a few different things this year. I guess starting off, we can kind of go through, I guess the big thing that we're looking to change would be the hours of operation for Friday and Saturday.
So what we're bringing this to you guys. Normally, if we make tweaks and, you know, stuff like that throughout the year, we don't bring it to the park board. I mean, it was just done internally and a quick little change in policy, this or that, to fix something that, you know, about cleaning up or whatever, and it's worked out well. But these are a little bigger changes, and therefore, you know, we decided it'd be best to bring those to park board. So regarding we'll go with the hours first. Okay, let's go with the hours first.
So we've always been basically open until 1 a.m. We've asked parties to end at midnight and have everything cleaned up and out of the facility at 1 a.m.
How many good things happen after 10 a.m.? Unless you're the one having a good time.
I'm gainfully employed for when there's full moons.
Things seem to escalate negatively after 10 is what we've noticed.
And we allow, obviously, alcohol in the building.
We
Is it
do.
any kind of alcohol? I mean, they can have hard liquor, they can have wine, beer,
Yep.
everything.
It just has to be
They just can't sell it, is that correct?
correct. So what we're looking to do are change some of the end times for the rentals. This would be for Friday and Saturday. We have had a number of issues with the rentals that go until 1. Like I said, there's a lot of drinking that happens from 10 until midnight or 1. Makes it very difficult to get people out of there actually at 1. Makes it very difficult for the place to be cleaned properly. Big challenge is if it's not cleaned properly and you have staff all of a sudden staying after 1 o'clock for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to clean. They said you're very tired and angry staff. Me and Rachel have received a number of text messages at 2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning that they're still cleaning. So what we're looking to do is change the resident end time for Friday and Saturday from 1 a.m. to midnight. Everything's got to be cleaned up and out of there by midnight. They can maximize the time that they spend for their party or event by renting on Sunday morning for cleanup, which we do suggest anyways. It would have to be a 4-hour rental window because we have to have staff come in to work the Sunday shift. But, you know, if you want to stay and party till midnight, you can stay and party till midnight, but you have to have an 8 a.m. to noon rental on Sunday. And then for non-residents, which is where we see a lot more issues. Like I said, it wasn't a ton of non-resident rentals that we have in a year, but the ones that we do have,
The bigger issues are non-resident.
Yeah.
we had, I want to say 11 or so for the large rooms, 23, and I'd say 5 or 6 of them got banned.
Oh, yeah, looking at your list.
Because most of the time they're using it as a one-time event.
They
They're,
just don't care.
yeah, residents, you know, their tax dollars are paying for it. They always want to have that go-to spot if they're having, you know, an event. So if they lose their privileges as a non-resident, it doesn't really phase them.
And everybody knows everybody in this town and they're gonna talk about it.
Yes. So we're proposing a 10 p.m. cutoff for rental time, Friday and Saturday for non-residents.
Do other community centers like this in the area allow non-residents to rent?
We do.
They do. I mean, you've had problems with non-residents. You have very few looking from past history of non-residents using it. To take care of the problems, maybe you just don't rent to non-residents.
With a 3-year wait list for residents, doesn't even
Yeah,
matter if we lose 1 or 2 nods.
right.
Can we do that?
I would say that almost seems discriminatory
That's the next question.
based on
I'm in your-
where you live.
Right. Well, we used to, and maybe, I don't know if it's this way now, but we used to not allow non-residents of some of our programs. And it wasn't discriminatory. You could do
How long
that.
ago was that?
Well, it was when I was here, so.
Yeah.
It was in the 90s.
I mean, because then you
2000s.
look at like who can afford to live in Ashwaubenon
I
versus
think
who
the
can't
only,
afford
the only
to.
program that excludes non-residents right now is the special children's program. But that's a special service. Where they've got to attend they got to live in Ashwaubenon to be involved in that, because that's a whole different beast, I guess. That's the only thing right now.
Well, and then maybe you don't rent it on weekends to non-residents. You know, that
was
isn't
our park
available to
shelter.
them.
But you're still discriminating.
I don't know.
I mean, you're discriminating now with the fees.
Right, you're charging them more because a non-resident doesn't have to pay taxes per se for that facility, which residents do. You know, and you have all kinds of rules on when they can register, you know, they can only register, what, 3 months before, and residents are 3 months, so we're discriminating that way.
That's
If you want
right.
to say that,
Right.
but I don't know.
Our park shelters at Ashwaubomay, we do not rent those to non-residents
No.
on the weekends.
On the weekend, okay.
So it would be something fairly consistent.
Yeah.
If that's the direction you want to go, that's
Yeah.
something that we are.
That's a good point.
And that's just supply and demand.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to use shelter number 4 on the weekends.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
stuff.
I feel like, I know Rachel called quite a few places for the midnight end time for residents. We do want to keep it later just because we do get a good number of weddings. And we want to be able to offer kind of a wedding venue for residents at
I'm still reeling it in an hour because we still have our resident.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed to be perfect just because you're a resident. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can see on page 34, I mean, got a couple different places, whether it be Gather on Broadway, the Rock Garden, both, and at midnight. Pier Community Center, they don't have as big a room as ours, but the usages are fairly similar. Their end date or end time is at 11 o'clock. Howard Commons is at midnight. So this really kind of falls in line with similar types of venues.
Do
for-
the
for
community center ones that you have as an example here, do they have resident versus non-resident stipulations?
I believe the pier does.
I mean, I'll go Google it when I get home too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they do. It's pretty common.
Yeah, it's not that I don't think it's common or uncommon.
When we first did it, we just thought it would be nice to be able to fill in some of those gaps.
Right.
Because we didn't know what the demand was going to be for the rooms.
Mhm.
And for the most part, 85% residents right now, pretty close. 90% somewhere in there, but and not all of the non-resident permits create an issue. You know, and I'm just going point counterpoint. I mean, committee's recommendation to the village board can be whatever it wants to be, or we can just stop it right here. I guess you have the authority to stop it right here, however you want to do it, whatever it is, whatever decision you make, it'll be it. Because that's the power, that authoritarian power that park board has.
Careful what you say there, Rex. Some of
Yeah,
us
really?
might abuse our power. Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of the resident groups don't create any issues at all. It's just that the ones that do,
They really.
But I don't think you're ever gonna be able to have 100% perfection across the board.
But it's
You know.
nice, the extra revenue is nice and it fills in some of those gaps. So again, however you guys want to do it, but that's one of the reasons why we suggested an earlier closing time, because again, most of the issues happen after 10 o'clock at night because everyone is drink. And by making them get out of there a little bit earlier, the thought is that hopefully we wouldn't have as many of those bigger issues, but still be able to fill in some of those open spots that we have.
It's a very attractive facility to outside groups that have interest in drinking, I would say, just because of the time frame.
I don't get this. And the cost, and because of the cost, because it's, even though we have an upcharge for the non-residents, fairly healthy upcharge, it's still cheaper than renting out a private rental.
I mean, this is a step to try to take care of some of the issues you've been seeing, so maybe it's worth trying it for a year. See how it works. I mean, we can always go back and say, okay,
If there's
we're
no
gonna be more
change,
strict.
if there's no
If there's no
change, I have a
change-
feeling we would be happy to.
And if staff feels that
Make
we
to
want
do
to
that, yeah.
try to let the non-residents stay in for a while, great, try it, and then if it doesn't work, you can always revisit it in the future and see
I
where we
agree.
go.
These guys are the ones with the boots on the
Right,
ground and doing
exactly.
the research.
I think an earlier stop time is a really good idea for both though.
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some pricing
Yep.
changes?
Obviously, pricing for everything is changing these days pretty rapidly.
Before you go, has this been the prices for the last 7 years since it opened?
No.
Oh, okay.
The last price change was, I believe it was April 1st of 22.
Okay.
Which was probably $10 an hour across the
Yep.
board. Or $5 an hour.
Yeah,
Okay.
5 maybe?
10. Yeah, because I know I think we started off at 30 an hour. But obviously staffing costs have gone up. If you look at things like our electric, gas, water bills, those have all gone up significantly. So unfortunately, it's just kind of the way things are going these days, where I think we're better off making changes on a more regular basis versus making huge
Big
drastic
changes.
changes. So actually, if you look, we do have kind of a couple charts here that show what the current pricing is. It's the yellow.
Page 35.
Page 35 versus the blue. Our activity room, like I said, those are for the most part very good groups. Those are a lot of small groups. Like I said, family birthdays, retirements, baby showers. Those are the groups that we really enjoy having. We don't really have issues with those. Those are the ones that we want to make sure that we keep affordable for those family, small, intimate gatherings. So we're looking to keep the price actually the same for the activity room on an hourly rate. The large room is where some more of the issues come in place. So there's a lot more cleaning, a lot more supplies, costs a lot more to keep the room, cool the room, things like that. So we are looking at a $10 per hour price increase for the Grand Park Room East, which is the 2/3 portion, and for the full Grand Park Room. Just so you know, we don't rent out just the west side portion of that. That's something that we just kind of reserve for in-house activities. So
I'm trying to figure out the compass right now.
West is towards the-
I know, I'm not fiery.
The west room is the one that
faces.
The West Wing, yes, no, I know, I figured it out. But you're looking at me and like, you see it, you see it.
Wheels are turning.
Like smoke.
When you talk about cleaning, is that just a room that they rented that they have to clean, or is, you know?
Any space that they use.
Kitchen, bar area.
Yeah, but what about
Restrooms?
in the winter when they bring in snow and salt into
Yeah,
the corridor? Do they have to?
That's considered normal wear and tear, and we'll deal with that.
We're a little bit more, I would say, more strict on the actual room that they're using. The lobby area can get tricky, and same with the bathroom sometimes because there's multiple events going on at the same time. So that's more of a common space, but if they're the only person in the facility and there's a spill out in the lobby, they're responsible for cleaning up that spill. Or if there's garbage out there, they're responsible for cleaning up the garbage. So in the bathrooms, I mean, so there's normal bathroom stuff, and then there's above and beyond bathroom stuff too. Especially with some of the later rentals too that you can encounter pretty intense scenes.
Intense.
There are some that aren't later rentable.
True.
This is also.
So like I said, the pricing is always kind of a touchy subject and kind of tricky. Like I said,
These are still low numbers.
Yeah, I
Compared
never.
to like go to rent a hotel, like meeting space, and you're doubling, sometimes tripling.
You don't
So I
have the
think
food
that
and
these-
beverage minimums
Minimums,
that you're gonna
yeah.
have in a different place too. So,
Yeah.
David, you want to talk a little bit about the deposits for resident versus non-resident?
Yes. The deposits are obviously something that we need to look into changing as well. It's just like when you rent, a hotel room or any other facility. The challenge that we have is we need to collect a sizable upfront deposit. Trying to collect money from them after the fact, especially if you're a difficult group, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of, I would say, valuable equipment with TVs and projectors and kitchen stuff. A lot of windows. We've been fortunate over the years that nothing too major has gone wrong. But
Door handles, tables.
yeah, the storage door, I think the first.
The storage door, someone forced open, yep.
But if something does go wrong, we need to be covered. Like I said, we've had more of the issues with the non-residents. Like I said, they don't have the buy-in that the resident necessarily has for the facility. They don't have tax dollars going towards it, so there is a significant price difference between resident and non-resident. We tell everybody, as long as everything's cleaned up, there's no damage, you leave the building at the right time, you're going to get your deposit back. So it kind of stinks sometimes with, if you're renting 2 years in advance, it's a long time to be out that money. But like I said, at least the resident deposits are smaller. We're really looking to, I guess, kind of increase the non-resident significantly. Like I said, we do charge for cleaning. We're looking at, we'll talk about this too, upping the cleaning fees too. But we're looking to go from basically $500 for the large room to $1,000 deposit. The good thing for the non-residents is they're not sitting without that money for a long time, because they can only book within 3 months. For the residents, we used to have $300 before 10 and then $500 after 10. It's kind of a hassle picking the right one and determining that. And like I said, just because you're a resident doesn't mean you're going to do a good job cleaning or.
We have had resident issues.
So we're just going to straight $500 deposit for the.
Yeah, I think these numbers are more than fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the deposit is collected when they reserve it,
Yep.
and then you hold it for, it could be up to 3 years for that.
Correct, yeah. So with the longer ones like that, we have to go through finance and actually cut them a check and send them a check.
Actually, most of them.
Yeah, it's usually like, what, a month and a half or
Yeah,
something?
our
We can-
credit card system
Yeah.
doesn't hold a card for very long. Unless they bring a credit card to me, I can refund directly to a card. But otherwise, typically, whenever I am refunding a deposit, it's going through our finance department and they're cutting a check. So,
So that's kind of an area that can backfire on some of the non-residents claiming to be residents too, because we'll try to send a check to a place and it doesn't exist, so they'll come right back to
When
us.
it comes back, it's like, oh, looks like
Guess
we
we'll
can
just
do
keep
it.
it then. Yep. Do you charge anything for them to use, like the projector and the big screen and?
We do have a projector fee of $30.
and we do require them to test their equipment prior to it, or we will also keep their $30
Okay.
if it doesn't work, because we've had a lot of that going on.
They can get tricky with the different model computers and, between Apple and, you've got Dell and just different components that just make sure that all the settings are right on their computer. They got all the right, adapters and stuff like that. Most of the time when there's an issue, it's not our system, it's just the way they're sharing the screen or something on their side, yeah.
Is $30 enough for those bulbs? Those bulbs must be expensive for the projector, or
They are very
too
expensive.
bad?
I want to say they're probably $400 or $500 to replace.
I think I.
So we've had to replace them. In one of the projectors we replaced twice so far, and the other one I think we replaced once.
In its entirety, for all the groups that pay the $30, it covers the cost of the.
It has covered it, okay. That's good. Yep.
Yeah, if you have,
15 groups, you basically got. Yeah.
so I'm looking at the chart and one thing that popped in my mind is, when you know it's a wedding, they're gonna tell you it's a wedding. I don't wanna say you're gonna squeeze a little more out of them, but they got some buy-in anyway. They're getting a facility that's nice. Could you charge a little extra for those after, you know it's gonna be after 10, so maybe it's a Friday and Saturday after 5, or whatever it is. When you're bringing in the alcohol, you are anticipating there could be an issue. They're already getting a deal. They got a nice facility that, is there, I know it's like
My
another.
response is, as a resident, I'm gonna be paying for the Starn Community Center till 2035. I shouldn't have to be paying anything. But that's what we hear.
Another
And I get, so that is the balancing act that we're trying to do.
I don't disagree that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't disagree that we probably could, but I'm gonna go back to, I'm gonna trust what these guys
Yeah.
have proposed.
No, I get
If it doesn't
it.
work, doesn't work. They adjust it next year.
Well,
And I'm
and
not-
as someone who books,
It could be a
it
pain.
can get really complicated when you're in the system to make
That's
sure
the
you're
other
switching
thing,
this or that. Consistency across the board is a much easier way when we're booking things. It's this or
And
that.
I'm about to tell you, I'm not having a wedding and then show up on Saturday and have a wedding. If it means that I'm gonna save a couple $100.
And it's interesting,
That's
we
okay right
encourage
there.
people, yeah, it's interesting how many people will book 4 hours on a Friday to set up for their wonderful wedding, but then not book 4 hours on a Sunday to clean it up.
Yeah.
So it's real funny how they wanna,
It sure
they'll
is
spend their
true.
money in the
Yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
but then they all of a sudden don't wanna. So I think that's part of the deposit upping too, because
Well, and then 4 hours of rental, I'm mathing again, 280, 250, okay. I'm just thinking, like, if you take the 4 hours to clean, but you get your deposit back, you're getting back more than what you've spent.
right, and
Yes.
so we
Math is
tell
hard.
people these things, we try to encourage it when we're talking to them, we're like, then I'd recommend this or that. But unfortunately, that is not what we've encountered. Like I said, more of them are very worried about setting up, they're not real worried about taking down.
They want it to look nice, they don't care how it
Yeah.
looks.
When they
Yeah,
do.
once it's done, they just want out and be done.
Which is crazy to me, like I said, if you're having a wedding. I couldn't imagine trying to clean up afterwards, that
Yeah.
you've been, it's such a big day and
I got-
stressful. And
I got a lot of aunties for that.
But yeah, I think keeping the hourly rate the same across the board, just from a registration or, rental process is easier. Because we do have, it's not just Kelly or me that handles it, but, we do have a number of staff that handle those. So some, even during summer, some of our seasonal people will take a rental, so even if, I guess, simplified is better.
And they don't always tell you what they're renting for.
Yeah.
I mean, on that note, as much as you think they would, they also can just.
And so they lie about their address
Right,
sometimes.
they write family events, you know, okay, well.
Yeah. Okay, are we all good with this? Any other?
I think the only other thing for this, Rex, is the cleaning hourly.
Which is proposed to go from $65 to $100 an hour.
65 is not really a punishment or deterrent.
Again, we're trying to force people to act, to clean up.
Some people would rather just pay the price than.
No, I
than
don't.
pay the-
I have a duplex and I just cleaned someone's bathroom that lived there for
So
9
if
years. I
people
get it,
choose
I
to
get
do that,
it.
then we choose to take takes a little bit more of their money.
Fair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, if there's no other discussion, I'll take a motion on this.
I move to, as recommended, implement the changes with the financial.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, C, consider discuss act on Waterford Park playground equipment designs.
Well, these are always, this is always a fun project. We probably sent out roughly 500 letters to addresses around Waterford Park. We just kind of drew a map on the streets that we thought, that were appropriate. And David and I have been working with the playground manufacturers. There's 6 major ones that we work with. We had them each submit designs or a design for this playground with a dollar amount basically at about $120,000, which is what was kind of assigned to this project for equipment. And with that, you have the designs here on the foam boards. These designs were put up on our village website. The letters that were sent out, each letter had a unique voting code. So the residents could vote on what playground structure or structures they liked the best. We had 115 responses back, which is about a 23% return rate on those letters. And the structure by Play World, which is right in front of the American flag over there, the green and tan one, was the winner for the public voting. So that being said, quite honestly, we liked all of the designs. They're all very unique. We told the residents that it wouldn't necessarily be the color that's on the board, but we kind of left it up to the manufacturers and with some thoughts from us on what different color combos there were. The one from Playworld, or Midwest Playscapes, I should say, is the rep, was by far the best vote getter. So with us liking all of the designs, staff recommendation to Park Board is to recommend the Playworld structure, which was the top vote getter.
Does this park have to be, is it one of the ADA parks? No.
It is not. Now, whenever you put something in, one of our goals is always to try and make it more accessible. And there's some behind the scenes project work that we've got a pathway right now that goes up to the shelter, which is kind of close to the playground. So we're going to extend that pathway to the playground and have a sidewalk that partially runs parallel to part of that playground. So that will make it more accessible for people to get right up to it. As part of that, if you guys remember, if you've been on the park board for a while, one of our long-term goals that we've talked about is to try and create these gathering areas in each one of the parks. Because basically all we have right now is a couple of picnic tables that people can move around and stuff like that. But we wanted to make it a little more, I don't want to say cozy, but a little more structured. And Sand Acres is kind of like that. It's almost kind of got that quad in the middle with a couple benches that are right by each other, where you see a lot of people standing and gathering, and they bring in some of their own chairs to complement some of the benches we already have. And it's almost like a parent group that meets while their kids go out and play. And that's kind of one of our goals or objectives over the years is as we do some of these playground areas is to try and incorporate those gathering areas into the playground area. So long story short, is it's not shown on here, but that's one of the things that we're hoping to accomplish at Waterford is to extend that sidewalk up to the playground and I'll have a T, and part of the sidewalk will run parallel to the playground.
So the playground will have mulch under.
It'll be a mulch,
resilience
yeah.
or no mat or anything on it.
No, it'll just be mulch. Just be mulch.
All right.
So make a motion to approve the Midwest Playscapes playground equipment with the bid of what was $119,977.
Correct.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to give the people what they want. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Just wanted to
Carried.
Well said.
I think it's a great process that you use for getting playground equipment. Ask the residents, get the providers to give you a bunch of samples at a certain amount, and then ask the residents to vote on it. I think that's just a great because it gets some buy-in to it, and hopefully the vandalism, they'll care for the facility, keep an eye on it.
Calm down.
Because they had a way to look at it. Well, so I like your process. So
Thank you.
And most importantly, it's that they chose this.
yeah, and they take ownership in it, and maybe they'll keep an eye on it. And if someone's doing something to it, they
We've
might say
probably done it this way for, I want to say at least the last 5 or 6 playground builds. There's only one that we didn't take the top vote getter, but that was somewhat because the number one vote getter, the playground rep did not do how we wanted to and really spread it out more, and eliminated some of the actual activities, but made it look like you're getting more. And so staff knowledge of how that all worked played a role, and the number 2 vote getter was chosen on that.
Which park was that, do you remember?
Gillis.
I'm sorry, which one?
Gillis.
Yeah.
All right, E, consider discuss an action on Stantec Phragmites management plan around Argonne Park Cabela's area.
So this is
Did we
going.
miss the Ashwaubomay
Trail route. D.
Oh, I cut that one. All right, we'll do that first. Consider discuss act on proposed Ashwaubomay Trail Road.
All right, so I have been working with. I'll minimize this so I can see my computer. I've been working with Grafe on a real simple design, and this is by far not the final route. This is just roughly where this trail is going to go. So where we're starting from, if you take a look at where the newly built trailhead is on the north side of the parking lot, the lake parking lot, which I can go up here and point to. Let me just slide it down a little bit. Yep. So this is where the current trailhead is right now. We've got that nice large concrete slab with some of the seating and bike amenities that are here. Basically, the trail comes in here, and we're going to almost make a peace symbol and loop the trail around behind shelter number 1. And then on your map, basically we're roughly following the waterfront and looping it up behind Ashwaubomay Lake to the southern fence line, roughly along the southern fence line in front of the new maintenance building. It's an older map that they use, but they're aware of the new maintenance building and are putting it more to the north. And then over to the boat launch area, which will eventually, with the upcoming grant that we have, which will eventually become a kayak launch area. But that is the current trail route. If you take a look on that map, on the southeast quadrant, right along the Fox River, along the fence line, you'll see a stub that goes right to the fence line, and that'll be the connection point to the trail that Brown County wants to put in behind New Water, which would connect the Ashwaubomay River Trail to the Brown County Fairground, which is the reason why that stub is there. We did something very similar over with the Ashwaubomay River Trail when we were in Bay Harbor condominiums area. We just made that little stub to the property line of the old Schneider National Truck Yard, and time cures all ills, right? We waited about 5, 6, 7 years, and all of a sudden Alden Station came on board, and then that's where we connected the trail to Alden Station. So long-term planning process, that's what that stub is for. Although I would not be surprised if Brown County, once we get our trail in, whenever that may be, if Brown County moves fairly quickly. As part of their fairgrounds master plan, they'd like to make that happen as one of their priorities. But that being said, this is the rough route, so I wanted to bring it to the committee. Tracy, I know you had sent me an email before just wanting a little bit more detail with the trailhead, but I really don't have too much other than it goes in and then to the
parking lot. The other thing I was thinking,
and so then I was thinking to loop it out and then have almost like a triangular island in the middle where those trails converge, similar to what we might have. We kind of have a triangular convergence at Sand Acres, actually, where two trails converge and then kind of cuts across. I think we've got a couple of crabapple trees in the middle, and I'm thinking that working with Grace, that's how I'm envisioning it. But what are your thoughts on that?
my question was up further north, so the existing trails that we have coming off of the bridge. So one kind of goes out and goes towards the river, and then there's that other piece that kind of winds through there. So just having been out there and biking out there and seeing people walk, the trail goes down to that parking lot, like you just said, where it goes to that spot on the north end of the parking lot. If you are on your bike or you're walking and you're going to be heading to the west, and you come out of there, you're going to cross that grass to get to the road, and you're going to head west. And there's no trail there. So right now, if you're on your bike or you're walking, if you want to stay on the trail, you're forced to go down south. And you may not want to go south. You may want to just head out towards the exit to Ashwaubomay and head towards like Shelter Fort. And I know I've seen people walk right off the trail and take a path to the road. When I bike, if I'm being lazy, I won't bike down to the south end because I'm heading out west and heading out of the park. So I've cut across the grass as well. So my question is, can we look at that and see about putting just a stub path out of there going out to the road? So you don't have to, if you're not heading south to that parking lot, and you're going to bebop out of the park and you're going to head west on the road. You won't go there. You'll just cut across. And I think you're going to have a footpath. You're going to end up with a footpath through there anyway. And maybe it's worth waiting to see if the footpath develops. But I thought if they're going to be in here doing this, maybe they could look at that and see if there was an outlet path there.
My worry on that then is if you put that trail in, then you're going to need to put another stop sign on the roadway for potentially people to cross. And so I like the idea of just kind of seeing what develops.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think to add that short of a stub, I don't think would be that high of a dollar amount.
Yeah, and I was just thinking if we're doing the other, it was time to look at it, but maybe it just needs some time. And you may, how that happens on college campuses, especially, you put a trail here and everybody footpaths it over here. And maybe that's just wait and see what develops out there. But I just noticed it when I've been out there, people cutting that and just going straight across instead of going down to the parking lot and then wrapping their way back again.
So what they're probably doing is cutting across the roadway then to go onto the sidewalk or onto the marked the interior walking lane.
Yeah.
And then walking around the park and then coming back. That's what I'm guessing they're probably doing a park loop and then coming back.
Yeah, or maybe they're on there. Like I saw a woman out there running and she was doing a big loop. So she'd run across the bridge and then she'd run out of Ashwaubomay across the bridge and she'd get on Broadway and then she'd go back, get on the trail again and come back around. So she was doing that.
It's
like
kind
2 or
of
3
creepy
times.
that you know what she's doing.
Well, 'cause I ran into her a couple times.
That's my level of creep.
And she was cutting that corner, and then when I went around twice also on my bike, and I cut the corner the second time because I wasn't gonna go. So that's just what I've seen out there, and maybe just keep an eye on it and just see where the footpath starts. But people are already cutting it already.
They won't do it on the first, after they go there and get really low.
Yeah. Well, if they go far enough out, it's not too
Yeah,
bad.
go straight out.
Yeah.
I
Oh, I
know
know.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're shaving off.
And it's not, it's not that far, but
Not
people will do
but
it.
it will.
People will do it.
There is a,
Especially
as you get off of the bridge
They're gonna-
going south, there is a, those of you who haven't had a chance, there is a switch back there already that goes due west right away.
Yeah, down on the trail or
Yep.
down, yeah. And some
But I know
people
what
will go there.
you're talking, they're heading towards the baseball lines.
Yes, yeah, and especially maybe when baseball is in full swing, the kids maybe run over there and go across the bridge
Yeah.
and check out that cool bridge,
Right,
and
right,
they
right.
might, or,
Busy weekend.
yeah, they might be bopping, but maybe it's just worth keeping your eye on it and see if it.
No, it's
Is a
good.
problem.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes
And the
open.
other question I have on the, going by the maintenance building, is there a way to put it behind there instead of in front? Because I was concerned about
And
it.
it's
Is it tight?
it's actually a easement. It's not ours.
Okay, I was wondering, because I'm like, that'd be great to have. it behind
Based
so
on
that-
having been out there though, like I don't think that it's that path isn't that close to the building, it looks like.
So it's kind of hard to see
I was
here.
just thinking of the cars coming in and out, that's all.
So
There
with-
Maintenance vehicles.
this is the old building that's shown, so the new building, you could take a look at it on Google Maps, but the trail will actually go closer to the roadway as it goes towards that building and then go into the woods. There's a couple big pine trees between the road and the maintenance building. You'll almost go in between those
On the east side of the maintenance building or west side?
on the north side.
North side.
On the north side. We just didn't want to put the trail behind the maintenance building. The guys a lot of times will use almost that as a full turnaround and stuff like that. So I guess what I'm looking for on this is just in general, concept wise, that everyone's comfortable with this trail addition route.
I move to approve as recommended.
I will second.
All right. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. This is the one I was excited to get at.
Yeah.
E, consider and discuss action on this Stantec Phragmites management plan around Argonne Park, Cabela's area.
Sure. So this will be going to village board next week. And the reason I brought it to park board is just because it does affect some of the Phragmites that's in Argonne Park in and of itself. But what the village board approved back last summer, I believe it was for us to move on using Stantec as the engineering design firm and figure out, let's get rid of the Phragmites in front of Cabela's. Try and get rid of the Phragmites along Highway 41 from Cabela's down to, Morris, along both the DOT right of way and what's in the park. So some of the Phragmites that's going to be treated is on Green Bay Packer property. Some of it's on DOT right of way, and some of it is on village property. It's all kind of one big stand on it, basically, that's growing. So it's already been sprayed this past fall. What this does is it's a 5-year plan of how they're going to continue to maintain it, as well as how they're going to plant it. And so the maintenance will be 5 years because it's going to take a number of years to really knock it down. And then hopefully it'll be at that point where it's manageable for village crews to either go in and do it, or affordable enough that we can just have that as a small contract every year or so where we have someone go in and just spray it, depending upon what our workload is. But we want to get it to that manageable state. What this plan is, it's basically bid specs. And so this would be put into bid specifications that then would be sent out after if village board approves it. Probably in, I'm guessing in February, so that we can get that bid and get an actual cost. And hopefully get that approved, based on what funds the village has available for the project. Funding wise, I believe this is coming out of TID 5, I believe. It's certainly eligible for as an expense, just because it's all, around the entertainment Titletown district area. And a lot of the funds that are going into or being generated from TID 5, this is certainly a project that it can be used for. So,
Is there any buy-in from the other organizations it impacts?
So Stantec has contacted Cabela's and haven't, at first they said no, but there is a grant potentially that Cabela's could, the individual store could apply for.
Okay.
So it would be on the store to do that, within their own internal organization to help out with some of this. And then we're still in just general discussions with the Packers on.
What about the DOT?
The DOT does not. deal with
Zero
that.
Fs to give?
No, DOT will not deal with that. They're okay with us treating it, but they're not going to do it.
They have no
The DOT at this point doesn't have the resources to support it because of the length of right of way that they would then have to maintain
Okay.
outside of this area. But if you look at the map on the screen, the area that is DOT controlled is obviously the right of way. So this project will encompass all of this, which is DOT right of way. This is the sliver of property that is technically owned by the Green Bay Packers, leased by Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's. So there's kind of three parties involved, obviously, the village, the Packers, and then Bass Pro Shops being the lessee. In addition to the support, the potential private support on funding the project, there is an opportunity for substantial DNR grants to support the project that Stantec is very familiar with, that could then cover a vast majority of the cost of the expense. I'll show another.
We're trying to minimize the amount being used by the village.
Yeah, and as Rex had mentioned, this is going to be funded through tax incremental finance dollars. There is a budget within TID 3 for beautification efforts, and this would qualify under that provision.
TID 3 or TID 5?
TID 3.
3?
Okay.
So 3?
3 is the title of this. 5 is broader.
Okay.
TID 3.
If I remember correctly, there was some question that came up about Phragmites on the north side of Lombardy that would be in Green Bay. If they are there, is it possible that they would propagate across the highway even if we come up our side of it, or?
There's a possibility for propagation.
Yeah, seeds travel in two ways, Mark. Obviously through the air with those tufts that you see waving in the air, and then through their rhizomes, the ground. So our side would be taken care of. Would there be some airborne seeds that travel over? Very possibly, but if we get ours under control, then they should be able to handle any of those. Or the thought is that we would be able to handle anything that comes over. Now, that being said, we've also, because Stantec is working with the city of Green Bay on some other projects, not unsimilar to this, but they're also going to, I highly encourage Stantec, hey, can you touch base with Green Bay? Let them know that there's grants out there, and that, boy, if Stantec applied for those grants, we could take care of your side, in terms of Phragmites as well. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we've encouraged them to do that.
I would imagine that whatever you use to replace the Phragmites, the more built up it is, not necessarily with buildings, but with other vegetation, that would discourage the Phragmites from taking hold. I think,
We're trying to keep it, we've got some trees and we've got some shrubs, but we're not like overpopulating it, so we can get in there and treat it on a yearly basis and make it easy to do so.
So there's a couple of key goals here that I think everybody is, as far as the partnership is involved, is concerned with. Obviously, Phragmites being an invasive species, so invasive species control, number one. Number two, this is a kind of a low quality wetland, so this is a wetland rehabilitation project, which we think Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's would be very interested in. If you recall, when that store was built, there was some degree of controversy as to the wetlands. So we think that there's some goodwill in that as well, that we're going to be mitigating and restoring wetlands to increase the quality of those. And then the visibility of it, just being on probably the most visible corner in the village. That's a really good opportunity for us to clean up something and make it an attractive feature versus just kind of a wasteland of invasives, if you will. So Stantec's put together a plan. This is kind of it, as Rex had mentioned. It's a mix of wetland vegetation that's native to hardwood species, because there is some upland areas within this overall site profile. We talked about areas. There are some naturally low areas that would retain water. So we talked about those. They may be included. In all likelihood, they will not retain water for perpetuity, if you will, but they will retain water over a period of so many days post-rain event. So there's kind of some unique features there because it'll encourage certain vegetation that's attractive to that. There's some other conifers and other types of trees like tamarack and things like that that are native to the area that do well in those types of conditions that are kind of unique. So as Rex had mentioned, not overly complex and certainly not overly dense from vertical vegetation, because that was one of the concerns that the packers as well as Bass Pro Shops has, that we kind of have limited visibility as it stands. And we don't want to necessarily lose visibility by increasing the height of vegetation. So we felt that this was a really nice compromise that will have a good mix of vegetative types in the area. Maybe geese will come flying in and go out there and hunt your geese and fish out of the pond and all that good stuff.
I see a DOT dog park here.
As long as there's no bears, lions, or vikings, we're fine.
I like this. Obviously, I live in the area and I cut around that corner all the time. And it's always bothered me to see it. Always bothered me to see it. But the other thing I've noticed a lot more lately, is people are starting to walk that sidewalk going from towards Lambeau over, which really surprises me because I don't know where they're going. Under the overpass and up a ways. But I'm noticing more and more people using that area and walking.
That's probably a result of living quarters down there at a more populous.
There's
level.
there's multi-family
They're just
homes on the
using-
other side of the highway over there.
Yeah, it's an eyesore. It gets worse every year, in my opinion. Yeah. Or maybe because we see it every year.
And that's the first visible thing people are seeing when they turn that corner. Well, they're looking for Lambeau Field.
You see the Lambeau Field, and you're pulling a whoa.
Yeah.
What's all this nature? I
So
still
I
want
guess
a
we're
big
just-
Ashwaubenon sign, guys.
I guess we're just looking for a general motion that
Big one.
people are in favor of, that they're okay with this design and management plan, and it'll go to village board then next week.
I would make that motion as recommended.
And I am happy to see the nice plan up there is better than even grass. So I would say.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I just have a question. Obviously, this is Packers land, DOT land, and Ashwaubenon land. So do we have agreement, or do we need to get an agreement so we can do this work on other people's property? Because, we just need to be sure we can do that and not just go on someone else's property and do something that So that's my concern. Are we going to, before we go ahead and let this and get this thing going, that we have an agreement with the property owner that we're actually, the work can be done there? And I know you've had discussions, but I just would like something in writing.
So, yes, the answer is the DOT has issued permits for the work within the right of way, so that's kind of the bigger stumbling block than anything else. Packers, we have kind of verbal agreements, if you will, that this work would be permissible, of course, pending the outcome of the RFP process, then we'll draft the actual written agreement. Basically, what it'll act like is a temporary limited easement for us to perform the work to maintain that area in this state for a 5-year period.
Then after the 5 years, then whose responsibility is it?
Could be us if we want to maintain an extension. It could be where we delegate it, but we'll leave that up to the powers that be in 5 years as to how they want to see it.
And then like for the selection of the trees and the shrubs and everything in there, will Tim, our forester, be the one working with them on that to make sure it's something, because it says in their plan, they have to have like what did they put in here? A landscape architect or something to approve all of this. So is Tim gonna serve in that role, or is there somebody else, or how's that work? That's some.
We've done that already.
You have,
We've been
okay,
involved in the process.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, F, consider discuss act on proposed Argonne Park Trail and Boardwalk route.
A lot of things happening all at once here. So staff met, village staff met staff from Stantec on site before the holidays. We kind of did a walk around before the snow. We did the walk through of the park and did a lot of, that woods there is a lot thicker than I thought. Let's put it that way. I mean, it's thick.
It's a lot wetter too.
What's that?
It's a lot wetter.
It is, it's very boggy.
Well, that's the word.
Yeah, I used to, where the park itself is, we used to build some forts back there back in the day, but the woods is extremely boggy. So most of this will probably need to be boardwalk that's in the woods area. So you can see the backside on the park. Where it's on the western side of the park, that's probably going to be just simple crusher dust trail, which we can do on our own. Dig it out. In fact, we've got a good spot to put the black dirt that we take out of there. It's actually going to Ashwaubomay between Broadway and the creek, where some of the scouts have taken down a lot of the invasive species that we've got over there, the buckthorn. But then once you actually hit the woods, which is the wetland area, that's probably going to be boardwalk. So it doesn't say this on the green sheet, but I'm probably going to work with Stantec to have what's kind of shown, and then also as an alternate to get rid of that shorter spur. So, because I think having 2 entrances on, or 3 entrances on off of Argonne is nice, but I don't know if we need 3. You know what I mean? So I want to have like alternate 1 and alternate 2, and really it's just going to be distance-wise on boardwalk material. There will also be part of the plan is we'll need to take down a fair number of ash trees that's in there. That's probably similar to Sherwood Forest. If it's just a couple of trees, Tim would not have an issue, but obviously there would need to be a fair amount of trees taken down, which are already dead, just so that it doesn't wreck a brand new trail boardwalk type of a thing when they fall, or jeopardize people walking on it. Like we just got a picture sent to us. Actually, College Ago sent a picture of us at Sherwood Park 2 or 3 days ago that a tree had fallen. Luckily, it didn't hit the boardwalk. It hit the section of trail in between the 2 boardwalks. So as ash trees start to deteriorate once they die, they're going to tumble. And so we're going to probably want to try and clear out a pathway on either side of a certain distance. So to all be determined when the bid specs come, but what I wanted to show you guys is general trail route of where we'd like to put it. And see if anyone has any comments before we work with Stantec on actually putting together formal bid specifications.
When you say take the ash trees out, does that mean actually remove them or just cut them down, leave them in the area?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. So it's very heavily wooded. I don't know how easily we can get equipment back in there, and I don't know how. This is me personally. I don't know how excited the DNR is going to be about allowing us back in there with heavy equipment to haul them out, because it would run up the ground quite a bit. Because even when it's dry, it's going to be boggy. It's that wet back in there. But that being said, it's also going to look like well, you've probably seen some of the tornado areas like around Waterford and some of that stuff from 10 years ago. It's a fallen forest. And there's two ways to deal with that. You either get rid of the stuff, or you plant a lot of different stuff that covers it. And I don't know what the solution is for that. We're not at that point. I'm just looking at the route right now. But Tim might have some ideas.
Yeah, just the site itself kind of presents a whole set of challenges that are pretty unique to anything that we've done. Some of the contractors that I've worked with recently with all the Emerald Ash borer work actually are well versed in this type of project. Being a wetland, it would have to be done when the ground is frozen. And they could do it one of two ways, just depending on the direction of the bore. And if we could just simply go in and knock them over and leave the material to kind of decay and break down on site and chop it up as much as we can to help speed that up. Otherwise, we could also certainly entertain a bid to remove that material off site, chip it up and remove it off the site as well. That would give you probably a cleaner look at the end of the day. The one thing that we couldn't be doing is stump grinding and any type of grading and filling. But as long as we're not changing the grade or making large ruts or anything like that, we certainly can
Do you know what the ratio is between ash trees and other trees in that area? Is it mostly ash or is it half and half?
It would go mostly ash. Yeah. That's probably a good percentage.
So-
Mostly.
So there's not much there to hide.
No, there's a little bit of cottonwood in there and a couple elms but yeah, it's mostly ash.
Like a hidden oak in there too, or something?
We did find an oak, yeah. So we moved the trail, kind of like, we gotta stay away from that. But kind of looking at it from an arborist standpoint, the key is to make sure that site is safe once we allow access in there. If we don't punch a trail in there, having a woods full of dead trees is perfectly fine. That's part of nature. But once we punch that trail in there, we've got an obligation to make sure that site is going to be safe for people that are accessing it. So, but yeah, a very unique set of challenges to try and make that project happen.
Must be some big ones back there too.
There are, yeah.
When the trail would go through, now Sherwood, we had some pockets where they planted different there's flowers and there's other different things. Is that a similar type of thing that may happen here, or is it kind of like we're just gonna put
Sherwood, we were able to do that only because not everything along that trail was wetland. You know what I mean? So we could kind of scarify the ground a little bit, and there were sections of non-wetland area where we planted a lot of perennials, seeds, which have taken really good in those areas. But this being all in the woods and all wetlands, I don't know how much opportunity there is. I mean, if we can, we will. I guess
I'm just thinking
we didn't even think of that at Sherwood until we were walking the trail after it was completed, and we thought, you know what, this is prime to do something.
Yeah,
like this.
well, it was really cool. I think
so. But I think we need to kind of see.
Let it play.
Let it play out in terms of how much debris is going to be there, where the trees are going to be, and
yeah, I just with felling them into the swamp and letting them sit, like moss will grow over them. It's pretty cool to see a moss cover. There's already habitat there that'll love that. They'll be like, hey, new house,
Yeah, like mosquitoes.
like mosquitoes. But, I don't know, is there, that was my thought, is there a way to, there's an eyesore, but look at this nice thing next to it.
There are some pockets of neat sedges that are naturally growing there. And by clearing out the overstory, that would probably help promote some of that natural plant material that's already there. Kind of in the corner where it goes from the turfed area into the wetland type area, before it makes that first turn. There's some kind of a unique pocket of sedges that are growing in there.
Yeah, there was, I remember.
Yeah.
There was, it's pretty sharp. That was the boggy. I
think there was a fourth in that area too. I don't see it on the map here.
A fort, you said?
Yeah.
This is like a beaver's house, it's fine.
Oh, my kids.
There's a couple in there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I've never run into any homeless in there.
We have.
Because I get over there,
Yeah.
walk through there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Not
Not
recently.
They're hidden.
Are they?
They're deeper in there. I think public safety.
Not in my neighborhood.
I think public safety may have asked a couple of them to move along.
What happened to the deer? I haven't seen any.
They're at my house eating the flowers.
I mean, I used to see them out there at, certain times of the day and then,
At Argonne?
at Argonne, and now I don't even see tracks or dropping.
They're in Sherwood.
They just moved on.
Gotta leave them some snacks.
They actually come down the street to our
Yeah.
houses in our yard.
Eat your flowers too.
Yeah.
So just looking for approval and concept of this trail route so we can instruct Stantec to continue working on bid specs.
So everything in the wetland is, all the tree area, the wooded area is Packer property, correct? Or just
Pretty
part of it?
much,
Pretty
yeah.
much, so once
Pretty much.
you get into the wooded section, all of that is Packer
Yep.
property. So I guess I'd have my same comment on this. We should get an agreement with Packers. It's gonna be a lot of money to put however many, 1,000 feet of boardwalk. So
Yeah,
are they, gonna help, but who's gonna maintain that and take care of that in the future? So
We'll
those are my
probably be maintaining it, but one of my things too is not that anything would, but we'd want to make sure that that trail stayed in place to get at least 25, 30, 50
Right.
years out of it.
Yes, that all of a sudden
You know,
it
that
doesn't
would-
change and somebody doesn't want it there anymore. So
Right,
That's
so
my
that's
concern.
kind of probably what we want to do agreement wise, but that's all to be kind of fleshed out, when the time comes.
For tonight's purpose, I think what we're looking for is just a general agreement on the layout. Some type of easement, not necessarily permanent for sure, but at least perpetual, if you will, for the duration of the boardwalk.
Yeah.
Be drafted. And there certainly would need to be some contribution for funding on the portion of the boardwalk within the Packer property. I think the village would be supportive of providing some, but there would need to be some type of private contribution for that.
The boardwalk at Sherwood is that a 10-foot wide, Tim, or 12? This probably wouldn't be as wide, just because the one at Sherwood was meant to be able to accommodate like a small gator or UTV to go in there. This would not be. So there would be strictly a walking trail. So my guess is probably more like maybe 8 feet, something like that.
And your recommendation, Rex, is to take out the middle access point, correct?
I would like,
think that's a
I would
good
like to
idea.
do a couple different
On each end?
options, and just see what the cost difference is and make the determination based off the cost difference. But I have a feeling, that's a fairly long stretch for boardwalk. It's not going to be a small dollar amount. So that's why I want to go
Cut some off.
like a gold standard and a diamond standard and just kind of figure out what we can more afford.
And then there's a sidewalk all along Argonne on that side of the street, correct? So when they
Yep.
pop out, there's somewhere
Yep.
to go to.
Yep.
Which is great.
All right, any other discussion? Get a motion motion?
Make a motion to approve the trail and boardwalk, and send it on to village board.
I don't know if, do we need to, I don't think, yeah, we do. We're gonna put this one on the village
Oh, I'm
board.
sorry, I thought I said it here.
Yeah, it does, it does, only because it's on property in addition to village-owned property, so we're gonna make sure the village board is. Sorry about that.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second?
Sure. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. G, Park and Rec and Forestry Department report.
Yeah, just winding things down, aquatics, there's a number, well, there's a number of bullet points in all of our different divisions. Things are going well at the pool. Swim lessons are going well, they're packed, typically sold out. Mel is dealing with a lot of swim meets, both obviously with the high school season. We've got the giant YMCA meet coming up that is absolutely huge. For that particular weekend, that's coming up shortly. I know she was going to do the community pool report tonight, but there's a swim meet tonight that she had to work. So she'll be doing that in February. But things are going well at the pool.
That's great, they're hosting that state, U10 again.
Yes, that
Didn't they
was
host that
a
before?
great,
Or
that was the first time, this will just be the second time.
Second year, that's like that. That's
That's a
great,
huge fundraiser for the club.
yes.
That got them out of, quite honestly, got them out of the red, which they were still in from COVID, with the village for payments.
Oh,
So, yeah,
nice.
that'll be nice. They'll be able to do some, now that they're in the black, they'll be able to do something with that.
I imagine that's good for the local businesses too.
Yeah.
The restaurants. and
That brings in people from all over the state.
Yeah.
All over the state.
Hotels too, since we don't have a home playoff.
Yep. A couple different things. Mel will talk more about it. I think for the pool report next week, but there's been some challenges. What the pool opened in 16, I believe it is. And so we're looking at, everything is going to be about 8 years old right now. And Mel's become an expert at fixing a lot of the Colorado system equipment, whether it be the scoreboard, the computer programming. What's going out now is the touchpads. Just think of the club using them constantly, the girls swim team using them constantly, the boys swim team using them constantly. Bang, 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 bang. They're starting to deteriorate now. And so now the school district is looking at ordering some new touchpads, but she's been doing a great job of, her and Roger, who is retiring very shortly, but they're doing a great job of keeping things rolling and repairing things.
Are the touchpads those things on the wall underneath the water?
Yep.
Okay.
Big deal when you're doing meets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Difference
You
maker.
can, a lot of the stuff is done, and we also have a pair of dolphin, not a pair, we have like 10 of the dolphin stopwatches, which are also electronic, which can be used. They use those as a backup, but when you're hosting like this 10U and some of the sectional WIA meets and stuff like that, there's a higher level of requirement for timing, which is where those touchpads play a huge role. All right. Forestry report. Tim's got a number of things in there. Obviously, the bids for the next management area, pruning projects. Tim is probably happy that we're almost done with the grant for New Water. They were very gracious and gave us funding to plant over 100 trees over the last couple of years, but they're also they're right on what the requirements are. And so we're almost done with that grant, so that's good. Tim, anything you want to add into the forestry report?
No, the grant is done.
Grant is done.
Yeah, we're just waiting for a check,
There you go.
reimbursement. But that was a neat project. The focus was from New Water to replace canopy cover lost in green spaces due to emerald ash borer. So just the timing of it. Ashwaubomay Park, Argonne, and Smith Park were the 3 sites that we selected for that project. And so you see all the new trees at those sites that was funded as part of that grant project. So we provided labor, they provide the plant material. It's a good partnership. But they coordinated a larger grant at the federal level and then divvied it up with some of their customers and partners in different communities.
You know,
Nice project.
it's not on here under forestry, but it's not. There's no action that needs to be taken. You want to let them know about that donation that we received?
Oh, sure. We recently received a private donation from a resident in memory of a child that had passed away. And they wanted to increase or improve some of the signage, the plantings, interpretive signs at the Sherwood Forest Arboretum. As Tracy probably remembers, that was started in about 96, 97-ish, and it kind of grew over the years, but desperately needs some updating of some of the signs that got vandalized, and the posts have kind of rotted off. So they've given us a nice donation of $2,500 to improve and update some of the stuff at that particular site and do some new plantings as well. So that actually just came through this week, and we've already started the process of getting the signs made for that, and we'll have them out hopefully early this summer.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, did a little bit of work in Sherwood Forest. A couple of the residents on the far west side were concerned that there were kids and young adults going in there, starting bonfires, kind of hanging out back in there. Not all of that woods on the west side is park property. A lot of it is private property. So really they were doing things on someone's backyard. So we just tried to make it a little bit, when I first started, we walked the boundary and made sure all the boundary signs were there, and they're still there. It's just that I think we needed a few more of them in this section, because there's a lot of additional pathways that are being forged by some of the area kids, you know, with the increased usage at Sherwood.
It's funny, when those boundary signs were put in originally, it was for the opposite problem, because the residents who were moving into the park, they were putting their fireplaces in there, they were putting their retaining walls in, so we had to back people up and actually put the new stuff out of the park property, and that's when the signs went up, because we have the other problem going on. And now it's the other, now it's flipped, That's true. I know,
Park and Rec, basically David is hard at work. We have about a month and a half to work on our brochure, so all the park planning, program-wise, through August is due in about a month and a half, goes into the brochure. So that's what David is working on right now. Instructors, programming, parks, you know, anything like that. And then similar to that, I'm working, we just sent out letters yesterday to about 25 or 30 of the food trucks, seeing who's interested in our food truck rallies. They've got a couple weeks to get back to me on that. And currently this week, my number one priority is to be working, I'm trying to get together a band menu, so a list of all the different bands that are out there that might work for our Wednesday concert series, and their pricing, and then I put together that menu, and then I'll send letters out to last year's sponsors, and then I'll meet with those sponsors, and hopefully most of them will be willing to continue that sponsorship again in 24. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. Questions on anything?
Letters gone out to staff, returning staff, how's that going? You're getting... It's going.
Yes. So I think some of them may have gone out or are ready to go out, but we want to send them. We want to try and send them as close together as possible. So.
Is there any thought, going back to the trail, Argonne Park, possible trail, putting up one of those posters too, where you have doggy bags in them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because I'm noticing there's a lot of people, that allegedly are running their dogs in the park now, more and more. And I go
Yep.
through there and I'm seeing more and more dog droppings and.
Yep.
um,
Yep, that's what happens with the trail. So yes, absolutely, we will be doing that. I should mention on here, I don't know if it's on here or not. I don't think it is. But the new proposed mini park on Element Way, kind of across the street, I've sent, we've got a park amenity survey online, which the general public can't see. It's basically ashwaubenon.gov/mini park. But we've sent it to the property managers at the Element and at Bohemian Park, asking them to try and get that out to their residents, and see if they can give us any feedback on particular amenities that they may want to see in that mini park. Whether they do or not, that's the question. Bohemian Park was all on board with it. I have not heard from the Element. Hopefully they will as too, because obviously we'd like to get as much feedback as possible to put the things in there that the people want. Interesting though, talking with the property manager at Bohemian, he kind of gave me a little bit of an insight of what's over there. He said roughly 20 to 30 young professionals, both single and married, very few kids. Typically, when the kids come, it is with the married couples, and then they soon move out because now all of a sudden they're in a large apartment complex and they've got kids, and it may not be the best match, but there are some kids in there, so he felt it was important to get that out to the residents. So I think he's doing so, and we've got a couple weeks of that being open, and hopefully we'll get some feedback from people. So that's something that we've been working on as well. Any thoughts, comments, questions on any other parks, projects, ideas, things that are happening?
Okay, items for next agenda? Anybody got anything they want to see?
So 2 items that will be on the February agenda, well, hopefully, is the community pool report for 23. And also, I believe it was supposed to be on January, but they asked it to be pulled. I believe AGSA is going to be requesting alcohol sales during some tournaments at Pioneer Park. So that'll be a kind of a hot discussion topic in February if they do push it forward on that in that month.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.